I want to say just a few words about the context we're in before we kind of get going. Because we're at war. It's a state of war. A war in Iraq, a war in Afghanistan, military bases around the world. That has tremendous impacts, as you all know, on our local lives, our local communities, funding for healthcare and our schools and social services. It means that aggression and war, violence are modeled at the highest national levels as the way to solve problems. Violence is glorified in our media. And for many of our young people, one of their main options in life, even to get an education, is to fight in the services. We're also in a time of recession, economic recession. We're in a larger period of a declining empire. And so we need to think about, well, how is the ruling class managing that, and what's our response to that? And of course, what better way to have a primarily white male Christian ruling class be camouflaged than to have a black man or a woman, a white woman, be the front person for that. So, we need to think about what the implications of being in a period of declining empire in the center of the empire. And what the immediate piece of that is being in an economic recession. And that, of course, means that in these years, people's economic lives are deteriorating. And the social structure is deteriorating even more than it's been under attack over the last 20 or 30 years. This period, it's even more fragile. And finally, we're in a period of global climate change, global warming. And so we need to also take into account what the impact of our lives and work is in a framework of tremendous threat to our existence and to the existence of life on the planet. So, we're going to be talking a lot about the local community and our own lives and things like that, but we need to do it in the context, be realistic about what's going on in the world. And the question I constantly kind of trying to ask myself is what I'm doing commensurate with what we're up against? Is it commensurate with the challenges we face? What's my contribution to that? So that being said, to spend some good time together, we need to come to some agreement about how we're going to do that. So I want to very quickly just come up with some group agreements so that we're all clear about how we want to be together in this time that we have. And I put the first one up here, which for me always makes me more able to participate, which is the understanding that my personal story will stay in the room as we go through the day and past that. I'd like you to think to yourself for a moment, what do you need from the group as an agreement to make you feel more comfortable, more fully able to participate? And we'll just quickly put these up here. What do you need from the group? Yeah.
Perspective, opinion.
Respect. Opinions. Okay. What else? Yes.
Careful listening.
Careful listening.
Which kind of goes.
And it bears putting up here by itself, certainly. Okay, good. What else? What do we need from the group?
Inspiration.
Inspiration? Honesty. Okay, what else?
Connection.
Connection.
An awareness of airtime, not space. Pick up.
Okay. Can I put that as sharing resources? Because airtime is a resource, and energy and all those things. But airtime in particular, because everybody has a lot to say, and we want to make sure that everybody's voice is heard. What else? What do you need to make yourself be able to be more fully present? Yes?
Open-mindedness.
Open-mindedness. Any others?
Compassion.
Compassion. And
I'm not sure this gets listed separately, but sharing and openness, that it's not just sharing airtime, but also
Right.
making sure you give your share into the airtime too.
uh-huh, okay. Right. I'll just put sharing up here.
Right.
Okay. What?
Taking risks.
Taking risks. That goes with sharing, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But it's a lot easier if we have an environment where people are listening and respectful. So there's a reciprocal thing going on. And I'm going to add one to those, which is right to pass, because sometimes we don't feel safe or comfortable or ready to share or take risks. So for each of us finding our own balance in that, so that we're taking care of ourselves. Anything else that anybody wants to put up here? Okay, I'm going to actually add one more. For me, that's important, which is that as much as possible we use I statements, that we speak from our own experience. I think, I feel, I know, rather than you or they or most people or whatever. Because that creates more space for other people to make their I statements as well. Okay, look at the list. Anybody here who can't agree that this is how we'll try to be together while we're here? That works for everybody? Take a look at it again. What difference do you think it would make if we actually lived by these agreements in our families, schools, workplaces, neighborhoods? What difference could it make?
It wouldn't be a war.
There wouldn't be a war. Mm-hmm. What else? Would it make any difference?
Yes.
What kind? What?
Well, I think a lot of us would, I'll speak for myself,
Uh-huh.
would probably be out of job.
Right. A lot of us are paid to clean up the mess of not having these in place. I mean, it's a very simple list, really, isn't it? But it's the beginning. It's more than just a workshop tool. It's also the beginning of the discussion about how do we want to live together. What are we really trying to build? And we're clear what we're against. We're against the war. We're against racism. We're against violence, etc. You know. But it's hard to invite people to join a movement if all we're saying is what we're against. But if we're inviting them to share some kind of vision of how we want to build a community, it's a much different process. So this is the beginning of that kind of discussion of what are we working for? And of course, if these were to become an everyday part of our practice, we would each have some work to do, right? Because we're not necessarily living according to these agreements even ourselves. So look at the list one last time. What is one of these that's a little challenging for you personally, that would take some work for you to walk out of here and carry into the rest of your life? And maybe anybody just shout out, what's one that's a challenge? It's not easy for you to.
Open-mindedness,
Open-mindedness, yeah.
taking risks.
Taking risks. Mhm.
Yeah.
Right?
The I statement thing.
The I statement.
I
Right.
think taking risks
A
is
big one.
a challenge.
Uh-huh, right. So we all have some work to do, and this is one of the places that it can start, is kind of living more, embodying the kinds of community and relationships that we'd like to see around us. So I'll put this up a little later, and we'll keep it as a framework for the work we're going to do together.